It's Thursday, and Plus Sports on Plus TV Africa is coming at you, as usual, with all the relevant sports news from around the world. Obviously, we've talked in recent days, and we continue to talk about all the consequences of the invasion of Ukraine. And one major one just dropped last night, and I'm sure some of you have already heard about it, some of you maybe haven't. My thoughts on this are quite personal, and perhaps I shouldn't bring them to the front of the story, but we'll get to that very soon. Now, we'll start with women's football, which is still gathering steam in its development. 3 goals in a 12-minute spell in the first half gave Arsenal a comfortable 4-0 win over Reading in the Women's Super League. Vivian Miedema, Katie McCabe, and Leah Williamson all found the net in the first half, with Swedish striker Stina Blackstenius completing the win in the 72nd minute. The victory moves the Gunners 5 points clear at the top of the table, although second place Chelsea have 2 games in hand. Now, I know that women's football may not be part of some of you's regular programming, but it is worth mentioning that while the defending can seem a little clumsy at times, men's football back in the 70s, 60s, and even all the way till the 80s was very much quite just as clumsy and cringeworthy. In fact, women's football is perhaps ahead of the curve when it comes to technical displays of skill. Now, on to Chelsea. Russian businessman Roman Abramovich said on Wednesday, March 2nd, he had decided to sell Chelsea Football Club 19 years after buying the London side, and promised to donate money from the sale to help victims of the war in Ukraine. He said, "I have always taken decisions with the club's best interest at heart," Abramovich said in a statement published by the reigning European and world football champions on their website. "In the current situation, I have therefore taken the decision to sell the club, as I believe this is in the best interest of the club, the fans, the employees, as well as the club's sponsors and partners." Abramovich said he would not ask for loans he has made to the club, reported to total £1.5 billion to be repaid to him, and the sale would not be fast-tracked. He said he had told his aides to set up a charitable foundation which would receive all net proceeds from the sale to be used to benefit all victims of the war in Ukraine and support the long-term work of recovery. Earlier in the day, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson declined to comment on whether Britain would impose sanctions on Russian billionaire Roman Abramovich, but said the vice was tightening on those around Russian President Vladimir Putin. There have been growing calls in Britain for Abramovich to be included in economic measures taken against Russians who are said to be close to Putin following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Abramovich, 55, who has Israeli citizenship, was one of the most powerful businessmen who earned fabulous fortunes after the 1991 breakup of the Soviet Union. Forbes has put his net worth at $13.3 billion. His spokeswoman said on Monday that Abramovich had accepted a Ukrainian request to help negotiate an end to Russia's invasion, which Moscow calls a special operation, although it was unclear what role he would have. British lawmaker Chris Bryant has told Parliament Abramovich was terrified of being sanctioned and was moving to sell his assets, accusing the government of being too slow to act. Now, Abramovich can be, we can point to Abramovich as the author and the beginning of the influx of significant billions of dollars and even pounds into British, UK, English Football League. Now, the truth is, when Abramovich came and took over the ownership of Chelsea, Chelsea were languishing mid-table and even within potentially relegation zone. But his coming seemed to breathe a breath of fresh air into the club, and immediately pumped money and very needed investment. At the time, Chelsea were owing a debt of about £400 million. Abramovich covered those debts and continued to fund the club for 19 years, ensuring that the club, under his stewardship, has won 2 Champions League trophies, multiple Europa League trophies, multiple Premier League and FA Cup, as well as the League Cup. And now, just recently, took the one trophy it had never won, the FIFA World Club Cup. For many, Abramovich's departure from the club would be a significant blow and loss, and there's no certainty on where the direction of the club will go next. Certainly, there are already billionaires lining up to buy the club. The reported sale price is £3 billion. But just because there are billionaires ready to take over does not mean it would be properly managed. We've seen how Arsenal, even with billionaires on their board, don't seem quite able to compete with the big boys. Now, the International Olympic Committee, IOC, has not made the commitment to lift sanctions on Russia in case of a ceasefire or peace deal following its invasion of Ukraine. IOC President Thomas Bach said on Wednesday, March 2nd, the IOC said on Monday it was recommending that sports organizations do not allow the participation of Russian and Belarusian athletes and officials in international competitions. The announcement led to a host of sports announcing such sanctions, including FIFA and UEFA, which suspended Russian national teams and clubs from international football. Asked if the IOC had made any commitment to lift the sanctions in the event of a ceasefire or peace deal, Bach said that after long deliberation, the organization had opted against such an approach. We have left this open. It was very difficult either to set a deadline or to define an event. What could either lead to heavier sanctions or what could lead to a lifting of some of the sanctions. This is why you find, in general terms, the formula that we are keeping to closely monitor the situation and will adapt depending on further developments. Meanwhile, Russian and Belarusian athletes can compete as neutrals at the Winter Paralympics in Beijing. The International Paralympic Committee, IPC, said on Wednesday, March 2nd, despite widespread calls to ban them following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, for which Belarus has been a key staging area. The International Olympic Committee, IOC, this week recommended that sports federations suspend teams and athletes from the 2 countries, but added that they could compete as neutrals if time or legal constraints prevented their removal. Success, as they say, begets success, and that's the case for Formula One world champion Max Verstappen, who has agreed on a lucrative long-term contract extension with Red Bull. Dutch media reported on Wednesday. Verstappen current deal with Red Bull expires in 2023. Dutch newspaper De Telegraaf said that the 24-year-old is expected to extend his contract by 4 or 5 years. The new deal is said to be worth 40 to 50 million euros per year, making it one of the most lucrative contracts in F1. Verstappen fought a down-to-the-wire battle with Mercedes rival Lewis Hamilton before clinching the title in controversial circumstances at the Abu Dhabi finale in December. The new F1 season will get underway in Bahrain on March 20th. Now, dressed in Ukraine's blue and gold colors, a fired-up Elena Svitolina thrashed Russian Anastasia Potova in Mexico on Tuesday, March 1st, and said it was her mission to support her country following Russia's invasion. Svitolina had initially refused to play her opening match against Potapova at the Monterrey Open, but went ahead after tennis authorities decided to ban Russian and Belarusian players from competing under the name and flag of their countries. That decision followed Russia's invasion of Ukraine last week, which Russia calls a special operation. Belarus has been a key staging area for the invasion. Svitolina defeated Potapova 6-2, 6-1, thumping her chest repeatedly in court. The players exchanged a few words at the net after the match before Svitolina showed her appreciation for the support from the crowd. Television graphics had a blank space next to where Potapova's flag and country would normally have been. Well, it's been a pleasure bringing sports news from around the world to you on this program, Plus Sports on Plus TV Africa. My name is Mikhail Tinubu. I leave you with NBA. James Harden came close to a triple-double on his home debut for the Philadelphia 76ers as they had a 123-108 victory over the New York Knicks. Have a wonderful day, and remember, life is never boring with some sports.